Hello everybody and welcome back to Juno New Origins, where we've been working on this craft and getting it up into orbit. We've made some pretty significant modifications to it, mostly due to the power issue that we previously experienced. And now we can squeeze some additional juice out of this stage. And the way that I'm going to do that is by grabbing this, and we can extend this right on up to wherever we want. As long as our thrust to weight stays high enough, that'll give us a lot more burn time, in theory. So something kind of like this. It looks very silly, but we can do that. We could also increase the number of these by roughly double, but I don't think that's what we want to pursue at this time. I want to just see what this feels like with that extra burn time. So this is going to be a little bit more expensive, but not very much at all. Let's see what that feels like in terms of propelling us upward. Okay, so we would put this then over at 70 degrees, throttle it up, launch everything, and... it didn't throttle up. Okay, I hit the button, but it definitely did not throttle up. Let me retry that again. One more time here. Okay, throttle up. Fire the engines, 70 degrees. That's what I expected to have happen. Okay, so we've still got pretty decent thrust to weight here. It's not the best I've ever seen, but it's good enough. And we'll have a significantly longer burn time out here. So that looks reasonably fine. And we are pulling some fuel here because this isn't quite fully compensating with the fuel burn, but we'll see how that ends up going. That would mean that arguably we should go to 2 of these outside stages, and we could pursue that. We could see what that might end up feeling like. So we can see our apoapsis is currently up to about 12 kilometers, and I want that to continue to go up. How are we doing here? We're at about 35? Okay. So we're at 20 kilometers as of now, and I'm dropping us to 45 degrees. Cool. So that's looking pretty okay. And how are we doing on these side boosters now? About 10% fuel remains. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and off they go. Okay, now how much is left in here? About half. That's understood. I'm going to keep burning at 45 right now. Our apoapsis, not as high as I would like it to be. So that definitely got us a longer burn time. There's no doubt about that. So as we can see, our apoapsis is looking pretty good. And I want to continue to punch that up. We're going to hold at 45 degrees until this apoapsis is like 500 kilometers. I'm going to want that to go up very, very high. So we've got about 4% fuel left. 3, 2, 1, 0, and off it goes. And now we're down to just this central core. So with that going, that'll be absolutely fine, and we can see this apoapsis still working its way on up. However, we know that thrust to weight is going to remain an issue. So we're just going to continue to burn through this, and we'll see how high this apoapsis ends up getting. And actually, I'm not going to burn until like 500. I'm going to burn till like 400, I think, is where I'll make the switch. So that seems fine. 3, 2, 1, 0, and we need to switch over. Well, that was dumb of me. I just accidentally staged that. That was very dumb. Okay, well, regardless, I don't think... Well, we were at about 300. It might have worked. Honestly, we have to try it again because I'm dumb. I apologize for that. Let's try this one more time. I'm going to do this in 2x speed to hopefully make up for that mistake somewhat. And let's bring that right on up. There we go. Okay, so this burn is going to continue. Like I said, arguably we should have... We should double the number of these if it's not going to be too expensive, and I don't think it'll be that expensive. But if we doubled the number of these, that would mean that we wouldn't be draining this fuel in here, which would be good. No doubt about that. Okay, so our apoapsis is looking reasonably good. Let's take that back up to 20. There we go. And down to 45 we go. So we're going to hold here. We're going to stage this as soon as this is burnt out. Like that. There we go. And now we're going to hold here and continue burning with this. And we'll stage that shortly. So everything is looking pretty okay here. The apoapsis is getting up there. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and stage that. And now we're just burning this fuel, the center core. So that center core will push us a little bit further here, and we can see that our lateral velocity is a little on the low side, to be sure, but we're putting a lot into our vertical speed right now because we're angling for a pretty high orbit here. So I just want to continue to burn here. Now this time I'm only going to hit the spacebar once. There we go. So we can see here that our apoapsis is holding at about, well, it's not holding, it's going up, but it's at about 266 kilometers at this moment. And I definitely want that to get up to like 400. So the real question is, how is this burn time going to look, right? If we go into orbital velocity here, you can see our orbital velocity is decreasing. Our thrust to weight is not phenomenal, but our apoapsis is increasing. And for now, that's okay. We're going to be continuing to build up our lateral velocity here. I would like to be burning horizontally, but we just don't have the thrust to weight to pull that off. That's a guarantee. We definitely do not have the thrust to weight to be burning horizontally here. We might be able to pull that off if we doubled those outside stages. That's definitely a possibility. So orbital velocity isn't dropping as quickly anymore. It is still dropping, but it's not dropping as quickly. You can see this time to apoapsis still struggling a little bit, no doubt about that. 2.8 minutes at this time. But this apoapsis is definitely starting to go up fairly quickly. It's up to 320. And that's just going to get faster and faster as we build up that lateral speed. Our orbital velocity is holding at 2047. Now it's at 2048. So our orbital velocity is now increasing. Time to apoapsis is still decreasing, which is not necessarily ideal at all. Can we even get that to 400 before we get there? That's the question right now. And how much of this fuel have we burned? About 20% of the drop tanks. Understood. So that apoapsis is still rising, and our lateral velocity is still increasing too, but this is not efficient. I'm going to pull this back. We can definitely get more out of that first stage. And the way that we can do that is by grabbing these guys and moving them from being at 180 to being at 225. So that'll be fine. Then that's not what I wanted to do. That was definitely not what I wanted to do. There we go. Then we can take this, and instead of being at 225, we can have this be at let's see here, 225, yeah, 135 in theory. Is that going to be too close? It might be. We might have to have these be slightly different. So let's put this about here for now, and then we can put this guy, if it'll attach properly. There we go, about right there. So yeah, these are going to have to be spaced differently. So instead of being at 225, I'm going to put this at like 210. And then this guy, I'm going to put at like 150. Yeah, that's spaced approximately evenly. Okay, so that seems good. Now we're going to grab this and just move it right on up to be about even with the others. It doesn't have to be perfect. Duplicate that, duplicate this. And there we go. We now have ourselves a pretty significant outer shell here. I'm just looking at the clipping here. It wasn't a problem previously, so I don't think it'll be a problem now. Okay, so now we need to look at our staging. This is 19 engines. Is this all the outer engines? Okay, this is all the engines. And then we have these 12 interstages. The staging appears to be broadly correct. Okay, we can still expand these higher, by the way, if we really wanted to. We could bring them up to about here, so like 28 meters. Like that. and then do something ridiculous like this. That's a theoretical possibility. Our starting thrust to weight is still, it's not great, but it's still semi-reasonable. So that is something we could theoretically do. I don't know if this is going to cause decoupling issues. We can take a look at that, and if it does, we can increase the size of these decouplers and reattach these. So let's see what that feels like. This is getting increasingly absurd. It has issues. Okay, so it's too tall, most likely. Yes, by 0.3 meters. Okay, so we need to take these guys down then to 27.7 meters, like that. Let's see if that's enough. Okay, that's enough. Beautiful. Let's do it. So now let's give this another go. This is going to be a significantly longer burn in a couple of ways, actually. So let's fire those engines and take it up to... That's doing a lot of shaking. Okay, that's interesting. I'm not sure what's going on with this. It's going absolutely haywire. It might have something to do with the clipping up here. But to be honest, this is kind of okay. As long as it doesn't disintegrate when we decouple. We'll find out. It's very jittery, that's for sure. And it looks like we're losing attitude. Yeah, we're losing attitude a little bit. Wait, it's smoothing out. Okay, I have no explanation for that. We seem to be good now. Well then, that was interesting. So we're at about 20 kilometers. Let's bring this down to a 45-degree pitch. And if we look inside here, we should see that, yeah, these are completely full at this point. So that is exactly what we expected to see. We're still at 35% fuel out here, so we're just going to hold here for a good long time. And we'll see if we disintegrate when we let this thing go. That was definitely a little strange with all of the jittering there. But we've still got a pretty decent amount of fuel here. So we've got 15% left. That 60-kilometer apoapsis looks good. 5% fuel left, and we'll see if this thing just destroys itself. No, it's fine. Okay, beautiful. So these are going to be at full fuel instead of being at like 50% fuel at this point because they have 2 tanks feeding into them. So that's going to be a lot more burn time, and we're further along because we had quite a bit more power as well as more fuel. So we've souped up that first stage quite a lot. As you can see here, our apoapsis is doing pretty well in comparison to where it was before. I think at this point we're safe to go up to 2x speed, so let's definitely do that. We're down to 40% fuel remaining in these side boosters. Center core should still be completely fueled. Excellent. And we can see this apoapsis is getting pretty good. Okay, let's ditch that. And I'm taking this over to pure horizontal speed at this point. Apoapsis is up over 500. Okay. We'll just continue to sit here for now. So we've overshot the apoapsis a little bit then. This is fine. We don't mind it going higher. This is pretty good, actually. So this means that we can be more aggressive with our turn. That's definitely something that we're going to keep in mind. So I want this apoapsis to continue to go up. For now, I'm going to be angling for about 1,000 kilometers, but we're burning purely laterally at this point. So we're going to be building up a lot of orbital speed, right? But we're not going to need quite the full 3.3 kilometers per second that we would need in low orbit because we're going for a fairly high orbit here. So there's definitely something that we could do about that. You can see here, time to apoapsis is going up at this time. So this will make orbit, but there's definitely a more efficient ascent trajectory that we could take here. So that was a very janky start to this rocket, but it did the trick. That's for... So at this point, this thing is basically orbital. It's not quite there, but as you can see, we don't need to do too much more here. We're going to take this up to 1,000, and then we're going to coast and circularize it, is the idea. So we did lose attitude a little bit, but it looks just to still be broadly equatorial. Inclination of 0.39, that's not too bad. I can deal with that. So 900 kilometers looks good, and I mean, we've not burned as much fuel as we had previously when we were way lower. So this is looking great, to be honest. We're about up to that 1,000 kilometer mark. So we're going to cut these engines there. And we can definitely make a more standard ascent trajectory. There's no doubt about that. We're past 1,000 kilometers. I'm just going to shut down this engine here, and let's head on up to the apoapsis. This will be the most efficient place to burn this. And circularization is going to be roughly 500 meters per second. Okay, that's reasonably expected. So let's go ahead and do that. It's going to be a 3.8 minute burn in order to circularize this. So now the question is, how far are we going to get on the rest of this fuel that we have in this Wyvern engine, right? Because the Wyvern engine pretty much needs to deliver us to where we're trying to go. That's the big thing here. As long as the Wyvern engine delivers us to where we're trying to go, like puts us in orbit of the body we'd like to get to, that's what matters at this moment. So that seems absolutely fine, and let's just continue our way through the circularization-ish burn. We're about 28% done with it. As you can see, we're about to enter orbit here. Periapsis is currently in orbit, so that looks good. We are now officially in orbit. Nothing can stop us. Well, except incompetence, but, you know, that can stop anything. Incompetence is truly the most powerful force in these games. So our vertical velocity is nearly gone, but that's expected. We're at orbital speeds at this point. You can see just how much lower orbital speed is this high up, and this is why I wanted to angle for being this high up. Not to mention, we needed to increase our apoapsis at some point anyway, because we're going to be doing an escape burn, right? So it doesn't really matter how high up we go. We need this speed at some point anyway. So we're going to be ending this with like 65-ish% fuel left in those drop tanks. That's pretty good. We could extend the drop tanks as well if we were feeling spicy. I don't think I'm feeling spicy, but that is a potential option. Okay, that was definitely a successful test there. No doubt about it. Let's see how far we can get this thing. And that's going to be further if we have a more efficient ascent trajectory. I just wasn't sure how much thrust to weight headroom we would need there, but that was more than what we needed. So that's absolutely wonderful. So from here, we would want to set our sights on Atraitus, of course. So this would be out over here. And let's think about what that might look like. So if we were to do a burn sometime around here or so, we'd need to get a pretty hefty burn going here. It's going to be a fair amount, but what would a transfer potentially look like? Okay, so this is not great timing. We're going to need slightly different timing from there. So what if we were out over here, hypothetically? Okay, still absolutely terrible timing. We might need to do this a bit differently. This is definitely the most efficient way to do it. Yeah, out this way, we're going to be going inward, which we don't really want to be doing. So at this point, we don't get a free transfer. We're not in a good position for that. We could wait for one, but I kind of want to stress test this anyway. So let's just plan a burn here, and let's do escape velocity, because I want to see how far this is going to get us, right? So this is escape velocity, and this would be bringing us out to roughly Atraitus here. Yeah, it would be here. Yeah, that's not ideal. So we're not going to want to bring it out that far, for sure. We're going to want to bring it out to, like, here, and then we'll do our transfer burn from here. That'll work for now. That's going to be 1.08 kilometers per second, or roughly a 6.3 minute burn. That's understood. We will warp through that as best we can. Unfortunately, with this Wyvern engine, we aren't able to warp faster than 2x, but with the thrust to weight, it should be fine, especially once we burn through these side tanks. Our thrust to weight is going to increase significantly. As you can see here, our stage delta V is going up. The game is confused about how much delta V this has. It has more than the game thinks it has, but it doesn't know how much. We could calculate it, but I kind of can't be bothered. So that's absolutely fine for now. Let's see how far this ends up taking us. This is not going to be a free trajectory over to Atraitus, unfortunately, but we'll get a fairly free one. Atraitus is pretty easy to get captured by. It's got a huge gravity well, so that is absolutely wonderful. So currently we need to toss about another 700 meters per second into it. Of course, the game believes that right now we have 611 meters per second, but the game is very confused. No doubt about that. We've got quite a lot more than that. I'm not sure how much, but it's a lot. That's for sure. We're still at 50% fuel on these drop tanks. I think that we're still going to have the drop tanks when we're doing braking burns and maneuvers at Atraitus is my current theory. I don't think we'll even be on this fuel yet. So I think that this is fine. I don't think we need any more fundamental design changes for this rocket other than, I mean, I'd like to make it cheaper, but I'm really not concerned about that at this point. There's not that many more bodies that we need to visit, right? So I'm not that concerned about making it cheap, and really all we need to do is optimize our ascent trajectory a little bit, and that's just going to be following our fairly standard ascent trajectory. So that seems wonderful. Now, note that we're in a situation right now where our solar panels are occluded by these tanks, but they're actually still charging at 9% efficiency. They've got a recharge rate of 1.45 kilowatts. So that should be reasonably fine. There's this one out over here, this 1.43. Okay, yeah, should be absolutely fine. Not too concerned about that. We've got about 40 seconds left in this burn, and that'll put us in this orbit here. Once we're in this orbit, we'll find ourselves a transfer over to Atraitus. It's not going to be a big deal. We just don't happen to be in a good conjunction here to get a super efficient transfer. It's fine. I want to see how far this thing can go anyway. So that is absolutely wonderful. Okay, let's warp until we are free here. There we go. And from here, we can think about maybe around here or so, getting a burn out this direction. That's pretty okay. We can dial that in a fair amount, get it down to like 1,000 megameters or so, something like that, 767 meters per second. I like it. Let's go ahead and do it. So we're going to warp around to here, and that's going to be a 3.3 minute burn. Let's take that up to 2x as soon as the burn starts, which is now. Beautiful. So 1,015 megameters is close enough. We're not going to need a huge braking burn to get that done. Then we can do our inclination change or whatever we need to do. We're going to be going to, I believe, Orcus. And then if we have the DV, which we probably will, then we're going to do a crash into Atraitus. There's no landing there, and I'm not expecting to be able to withstand the heat. So we're probably going to burn up in the atmosphere, but we'll see. I don't expect to be able to deploy our parachutes in its atmosphere. That would be wild if we did. We don't have a heat shield on this thing, right? So that's going to be a problem. Is there even an achievement for landing on Atraitus? There's not anything to land on. What would it even mean to land on Atraitus? I have no idea what that would mean. Let me check. View achievements. Is there an achievement for landing on Atraitus? Discover Euratos. Land on Orcus, Taurus, Boreas, Jastus. No. There is no achievement for landing on either of the gas giants, and that makes sense. It would be completely strange if there was an achievement for that. That would be very, very bizarre. Truly, truly bizarre. So this is a good approach. I like it. And it is time to put a cut in here. So next episode, we're going to go see how that's going to go. We've got 24% fuel left in these drop tanks. We've got lots of gas. I like it. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Andy McGard, Dark Horse, Xenocyte, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.